No, that can't be right. No wall she had to worry. Now all. Come on, autocorrect. That's not where the space is. Hartford, Connecticut, what is good? Woo! It is a delight to be back here in your lovely city, in your lovely state. It's funny, last time we did the show was like hot as heck in Connecticut for some reason. And then this time around it was like, what if it was 10 degrees? So we've got the alpha, we've got the omega, and now we're here. The full Connecticut experience. I'm so stoked to be back doing another show. And we've got some fun stuff to discuss this time. But I, of course, am not going to discuss this alone. I always have a special guest. This time, though, 2 special guests, because we've got folks from the Connecticut area. That's right. We've got Connecticut locals that you know and love. So make some noise for our guests for tonight's show. It's Emily and Phoebe from Buzzer Donut! How's it going, folks?
It's going well.
Excited to be in the hometown once again, doing another show.
Yeah.
Many books later. Mm-hmm. You're both from Westport, right?
Yeah.
Okay. We talked last time when we were doing the intermission of like, is there Connecticut versus other state rivalries? And we ruffled some feathers because you had mentioned Boston or Massachusetts, and like half the crowd was people from Massachusetts. Is there within Connecticut rivalries? Like, do certain cities have, a resounding yes.
Yeah.
From the Hartford residents, do we have from the Westport residents, do we have particular like, Hartford versus New Haven? Does your hometown have a particular reputation? What's the like within Connecticut hierarchy?
I mean, the one I know of is like the shoreline, like basically the ones that commute to New York that are on Metro North versus everyone else.
Ooh, okay.
Which Westport is that there.
Okay.
We're evil Connecticut.
Ooh, evil Connecticut, dark Connecticut. Okay. Evil just because it's like you live here, but you're working in a different state. You're not really here.
Evil for several reasons.
Ooh, spicy. Well, let's get into the books that are not very Connecticut focused. We will be in the Pacific Northwest for these 2 chapters, so quite far away, but I'm super stoked because these chapters are very fun. Now, you 2 have not been on the show in a while. We have a new guest question that you've not answered yet. If you were to have a Riptide, but since we're not demigods or we're not fighting people, we're just adults doing life, you have an inanimate object that turns into a different, larger, potentially inanimate object. What would your Riptide be? My example is I would have a friendship bracelet that would turn into my laptop so I didn't have to carry a backpack around everywhere. What would your Riptides be?
I am the kind of person who needs my headphones with me at all times.
Okay.
Like if you run into me in the city, I have them around my neck all the time.
Not to do a free ad, but what brand are we rocking?
They're Bose,
Okay.
the Quiet Comfort ones.
Classic.
They're too big, and when I want to not bring a massive backpack with me, it's annoying.
Okay, then what would the small version of them be?
I'm gonna say like maybe earrings, so it's convenient.
I like it.
I just got my ears pierced.
Oh my gosh!
Yeah.
Just now, first time, like
like a month ago, I got my ears pierced.
Did you go to Claire's?
No, actually, they opened a new piercing place where Claire's used to be in Westport, Connecticut. So I went there.
The successor. Did it hurt?
More than I was expecting it to.
Okay.
But not that bad. Yeah.
Okay. Cool. Fun. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Emily, what about you?
Oh man, okay. Well, there's many useful things that I would want to have on hand, but weirdly I just keep thinking about how actually I just kind of want a sword.
You're like, I don't like your question, Mike. I do want a sword, actually, please.
No, okay, I'll be more creative. I'm going to shield, just because like it weirdly comes up a lot. Like I'm talking about like Roman or Greek combat stuff, and I'm like, no, you got to understand the way this works.
You want a visual aid for your conversations.
Exactly.
I like it.
Aid.
That's great. That's perfect.
So, like, I don't don't know, maybe a ring that turns into it, or what does Sally have? A bracelet?
Bracelet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's cheating too, but.
Okay, great. We've done it. Now we can get into these two chapters. We're going to be talking about chapters 29 and 30 of the second book in the Heroes of Olympus series, The Son of Neptune. Now, where did we last leave our heroes? Oh yeah, Percy tempted fate by drinking some vials and everything was okay. And they are leaving the Phineas situation and continuing onwards towards Seattle. So chapter 29 is called Hazel. Obviously, we will retitle it by the time we get to the end. The opening line of chapter 29, quote, even before she got on the boat, Hazel felt queasy. So we already know that she is seasickness, but she's also feeling uneasy about the current situation. She's been thinking about how Phineas died and the specific way in which he died, just like powder coming out of the holes in his face. You know, a cool, fun, great visual to see when you're a teenager. And she keeps thinking about how she feels like she did something worse than what he did. And I get that, like, she did the bad thing of, like, semi kind of raising Alcyonius. But, like, when you factor in the intent, she didn't really know what she was doing for most of that, right?
Yeah.
So I think she's been a little hard on herself, personally.
Yeah, no, I definitely
agree.
Yeah.
Now, she keeps replaying in her mind Phineas telling her that she started all of this, and without her, Alcyonius would still be dead. And then she makes Ella, our new harpy friend, a nest of old books and magazines that, according to narrator Hazel, they, quote, liberated from the library's recycling bin. And when they said this, I was
That's
like, oh.
a Latin pun, though, right? Well,
Oh, because liber. Oh, to read. Thank you. Yes. Sure, I took Latin in high school, but you actually know Latin. So, wow, that's great. That's so fun. Wow, yeah, it's great. That's where the word library comes from. Okay, but when I read this line, I was like, oh, Ella's coming with them. Like, I just did not expect her to become a companion for this quest. I thought it was going to be like, cool, we saved the day, enjoy your life being a bird that quotes books. But no, now she's coming along. So I didn't see this coming. Now we get Ella.
Yeah. I kind of took it for granted until you just said that she joins the quest.
Yeah.
I just sort of accepted that. Yeah.
Like, did you expect that was going to happen when they saved her?
At the time I didn't, but this
Okay.
time, like, I just know that happens, so I didn't even think about that.
Yeah. So she joins along. Narrator Hazel does admit that it wasn't their plan, but Ella kept calling them friends and saying that she would journey with them, so it was too hard to turn down. And what was the Jane Austen book you were just telling me about, where it's about
Northanger Abbey?
Yeah, where it's like the horror thing of people overstaying their welcome?
Yeah, there was like a great tweet that was like, Jane Austen knew the real horror of life was you have to be polite to people that you don't like and they won't leave.
The worst.
And that's real.
Okay, yeah. I mean, we talked about this like 10 minutes ago in the green room, and I was like, I might have to stop the show and read this book instead. But this is how much I'm dedicated to you all. Now, Percy steers the boat, which Hazel identifies as his, quote, freaky mind over water powers. It's so fun seeing the others see what the other people are doing.
I feel like Hazel's got the best take so far, though. Like, just being like, oh, that guy, he's doing stuff.
Yeah.
It's kind of weird.
It's fun because we've known Percy so long that this is like super normal to us, but like, yeah, he is just in a boat going like, and then the boat's just like going wherever. Like, that's super weird. So Hazel sits next to Frank and their shoulders are touching, which makes her all giddy inside. And I love that, like, a couple of pages ago, she was like, I don't see Frank this way. Like, okay, Hazel, sure. But she explains the reason for this being so rapid. She swooned over his defending of her outside the bus stop with his words when he was saying that she's a nice person. And also when he defended her with his actions when he fended off the basilisk. So he's done some swoon-worthy type stuff, which has kind of sped up her feelings for him. His actions are making the fact that Mars is his father make more sense, and this is a notion that she never would have believed weeks ago with the Frank that she thought she knew, but this is seeing Frank in a new light. So they reach the ocean from the river. Frank keeps Hazel's spirits up with corny jokes, and I was really excited because I love trying to guess corny jokes, like Laffy Taffy jokes and stuff like that. It's so fun. So when they first had the joke, why did the Minotaur cross the road? I closed my book, and I was like, okay, what is it? 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 Because it like perfectly ended where the line was, so I didn't read any part of it. So I was like really trying to think, and I was like, cross the road was like to get to the other hide, like instead of the other side. And then I opened the book back up, and they don't give an answer to the joke. I was so disappointed and regretted. Like, come on, man.
Well, it's because we all know the answer.
What is the answer?
To kill Sally Jackson.
True. Touche. So then there was a follow-up one, and I was like, okay, now I know there's not going to be an answer, but I still want to think of one. It was, how many fawns does it take to change a light bulb? And I was like, oh, it's so hard. Like, I really spent a long time trying to think of one, and I just said 100. It's pandemonium. So I wish there were answers to these jokes, but instead, we're just going to have to live in my fiction where these are the answers. But he's doing corny jokes to keep her spirits up.
Camp Half-Blood joke book next. That's the next publication.
Look, Rick, come on. Talk to me. Let's make it happen. So he points out buildings that remind him of Vancouver. And because I lived in Seattle, Washington for like a split millisecond, I had to be like, oh, right, yeah, he's talking about Vancouver, British Columbia, Canada, not Vancouver, Washington. Have you ever been to Vancouver, BC?
Once a while ago.
I've been a couple of times. When I lived in Seattle, I went and it was nice. And I went there on tour a couple of times and have done shows. I guess I would have to like look more at the downtown. But as someone who lived in Seattle and visited Vancouver a couple of times, I don't feel like the buildings look exactly the same. Like I feel like Seattle has a vibe and Vancouver has a vibe. So I was confused by Frank making this comparison.
Does Seattle have mountains?
It does.
Okay.
I was thinking, like, the buildings, I feel like, are the last thing you notice in Vancouver.
Yeah, that's so when it was specifically, it was like Frank points out buildings that remind him of Vancouver. I was like, that's strange. I like it would make more sense if they pointed out we're really deep in the weeds of the Pacific Northwest. But this is me doing the thing where I'm like, they're going to a place where I used to live. I need to talk about everything. So the day is almost over. The 21st of June is about to end. And Frank brings out food that he scavenged from Phineas's table. And Frank shares some words of wisdom from his mom, and he gives them to Hazel. Quote, you shouldn't try to carry a problem alone. But he adds, it's also totally fine if you don't want to get into it, which I love that from Frank. Like, hey, I'm here, but also you don't have to do it. Like, I like to emit no worries, if not energy. And I feel like he's doing that, but he's being respectful.
Yeah. I love how receptive he is, too, because like she's not talking about anything. She's just sitting there, and he's picking up on the vibes she's giving off. I love Frank. I love Frank so much.
I like him a lot. He's really good. This trio is really fun. They're all good. They're all really nice friends. They're all considerate in the same kind of way. Like Percy's always been this way. Frank's this way. Hazel's this way. Like they're all just great. They're all very good eggs. So yeah.
That's why this book is my favorite of the Heroes of Olympus books.
Oh, it's your favorite.
It is.
Ooh, okay. I mean, I'm really like.
Yeah, I just enjoy seeing Percy being like sort of taken care of by these two big hearts. And it's such a comfort book.
Yeah, I guess, he like Grover obviously is a big softie, but you're right. Everyone's just looking out for each other. Mm-hmm. It is super sweet. Now, Hazel is scared to explain, both because she's ashamed of what she did and also because she's afraid that she would black out. She says that Frank's guess of her returning from the underworld was correct. She says that she's an escapee. She should still be dead. And then the metaphorical levee breaks and the whole story just kind of rushes out. The only detail that she keeps hidden is Sammy, which makes sense. You don't want to tell your new potential boyfriend about your old ex.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But Hazel is aware that Percy and Ella can hear this, but she's still kind of just mainly talking to Frank, but she recognizes like everyone in this small boat is hearing the full thing, but I'm still talking to Frank.
Yeah, she feels safe. That's really nice.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. So she's afraid to look at him after she finishes, though. She anticipates that he's going to start like scooching away out of fear. But instead, he grabs her hand and he commends her on her bravery for sacrificing herself to stop Alcyonius from waking. And he says that he could never do this. She doesn't think it was that brave. She blames herself for her mother's death. She says that she worked with Gia for too long. But Percy says that she stood up to a goddess on her own and did the right thing. That's impressive. And then Percy asks, well, what happened after you died? He's thinking, oh, you probably should have gone to release him. And she's like, can you please not do this? And I was like, oh, right, because she's going to black out. Like, yeah, she was just worrying about this as the narrator. So, of course, she begins to recall and she begins to fade away. Ella does her thing where she like quotes a bunch of books and stuff, but she ends it with Frank, go with her. And Hazel was confused. So was I. But she then fades out holding Frank's hand. And when she comes to in her flashback, Frank is beside her in Charon's boat on the river Styx, which I thought was really cool. And I didn't know was possible, but it's super fun for the chapter.
Yeah.
I wrote in my notes here, Percy, you're a fool for asking, but also thank you. I feel bad. I don't want Hazel to black out and stuff, but I also am very invested in learning what her backstory is because it's very compelling.
I mean, that's Percy consistently throughout these books somehow always gets everyone's deepest, darkest secrets out of them. Mm-hmm. And it's like a constant thing because he never shares anything with anybody.
Does he not? I feel like he's usually honest with people. No?
He's honest, but he just doesn't share that. Like, we're in his head, so we
true.
kind of forget,
Yeah.
Like, we get the backstory. But he doesn't actually tell people things a lot.
Oh, interesting.
And maybe, I guess Son of Neptune you wouldn't really notice, though, because he doesn't know anything.
Right. Yeah. We'll have to revisit this in a future book when hopefully he has his memories back. So they are on the River Styx, which of course we know has like the discarded dreams in the river. And one of the things they pointed out was a baby's pacifier in there. And I was like, oh, that's really dark. Oh, that could mean a lot of different things. Wait. Frank asks where they are. Hazel explains that it's her past. She identifies it as an echo. Charon is back. Described first as looking like an African man in an expensive suit. And I was like, classic chocolate suit Charon from book 1. But then he turns into his skeleton in a dark robe form as well. And honestly, get you a man who can do both.
Yeah.
Pretty powerful stuff. It was impossible for me to not envision the exact Charon from Hades the video game, who has an incredible vibe. Just such a good bony skeleton boatman vibe. Mm-hmm. This was something I couldn't remember if this took place in book 1. Did he have a British accent in the first book? Because he has a very British accent written. He does in the first book? Okay, I completely forgot that because there was a quote in this part where instead of saying it's all right, it's apostrophe S-A-L-L, Saul right. So like, big like, so right, you don't have a coin. Wouldn't be proper leaving Pluto's daughter on the wrong side of the river. Like, he was just super... When he started talking like this, I was like, okay, cool. So Charon is being played by Jason Statham. But I didn't know if he was British in the book or if this was like a Roman Charon thing. Like, is Greek Charon one way and then Roman Charon, I guess like Charon, but it's O-U-N. Like, British Charon. Roman Charon's got a British accent. I'm glad that joke worked. When I wrote it, I was like, this might not work. This might not
At first I was like, no, Mike, that's Greek. And then I was like, oh, wait.
Yeah, no, that's my favorite joke to make about English. Just something I like to color in from here or there. Aluminium. So the boat arrives at shore. Got to do rules of threes. So the boat arrives at shore. Hazel leads Frank to Erebos. Now, another language question. It's Erebos spelled with an O. Why did I think, in Hades' video game, I'm sure. It's Erebos with a U, no?
So OS is Greek, US is Latin.
Oh, okay. Then why would Hazel call it Erebos with the O? Okay. Rick?
Maybe she's been hanging out with Nico too much. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, there's a Nico Greek versus Roman thing that I have a question about later that I'll ask. Then they see Cerberus, and I was like, not Cerberus, but Cerberus. Damn.
That's his name now, actually. It's Cerberus.
Is that the same in Greek and Latin?
I don't know. I'd have to look it up, but I don't think so.
Okay.
There is a Greek case that ends in US too, so.
Anyway, Cerberus lets them pass, and then they approach the judges. Hazel continues to address Frank throughout this whole experience, but everyone else is only addressing Hazel as if Frank is not there. Now, the judges don't ask any questions. They just get right into the sentencing. The first judge says that Hazel thwarted Gia and prevented Alcyonius from waking. But the second counters that she did raise him in the first place and was guilty of cowardice. And the third judge reasons that she was young and she just wanted to save her mother. And I was like, okay, this feels like a pretty apt description of what went down. Feels like these guys are doing okay. Hazel then asks what her mother's fate is, and it seems like the judges just ignore her and continue on in their sentencing. The first judge says that Hazel died for a noble cause and prevented many deaths, but then Judge 3 says, yeah, it's a little bit too late. And the first judge says, well, yeah, it was because of her mom's influence. So he suggests that Hazel get Elysium and her mom get eternal punishment. And Hazel screams it's not fair, and I was like, kind of sounds like they nailed it. I thought it was perfectly done. I understand why she wouldn't want her mom to go to eternal punishment, but I don't know if it's not fair is the right objection, because it seems exactly correct to me. But the first judge asks if she really wants to take on the full blame, adding that it would be fair to let her mother take the fall because Hazel was destined for greatness and she was led astray instead by her mother. They then show her visions of what her life would have been. So they show like some flashback stuff like her finger painting as a kid. This is a good point for me to identify that in a previous episode, when Pluto gives her colored pencils, I was like, colored pencils? What? I forgot that this was like 1942, where that was probably a stellar gift. But I was thinking, I was like, what do you think? She's 6 years old and you just went to Target and you got her some Crayola? Like, what are you doing? But I got to retract that. But anyway, she sees a vision of her finger painting as a kid, then the horse date with Sammy that we saw, and then it goes beyond flashbacks into future stuff. Her getting married at age 20, which seems early, but then I guess also 1940s, like feel, if we're doing Jane Austen, I'm 26 and, feel like that's game over. So married in your 20s, I guess is fine. So Hazel thinks that her mom also could have had a nice life like this, if not for Gia, and I wrote in my notes, or herself. She was the one that did all this stuff about wanting to be rich and getting all mad at Pluto, blah, blah, blah. Like, I don't know. I don't have a lot of sympathy for Hazel's mom. That's just maybe me personally, but I don't know.
I mean, are we seeing the Luke Castellan parallels, though?
Oh, are you guys team Hazel's mom, too? Oh, no! I see it. Shout out to near the Amtrak station. There's Bushnell Park, which is pretty cool since Luke is played by Charlie Bushnell. And I was like, the Connecticut line continues. Hazel defends her mother, saying that she was misled and that she loved Hazel. And the proof of this is that she tried to protect her in the end. I was like, you want to talk about too little too late? Like, she turned way past when it was too late. But Frank asks Hazel, what are you doing? And then she squeezes his hand, trying to tell him, just be quiet, let me do this. The second judge says, no resolution, not enough good, not enough evil. And the first judge states that they will both go to the fields of Asphodel. So kind of meeting in the middle. If Hazel was going to get good and then her mom was going to get bad, they're kind of both in the bad-ish place. Hazel then goes into the infinite fields with Frank, and he asks if she really gave up Elysium so that her mom wouldn't suffer. And Hazel explains that her mother didn't deserve eternal punishment. Frank asks what happens now, and Hazel says, nothing. For always and eternity. So they drift around among listless spirits who cannot remember anything. But Hazel remembers everything. And she thinks that it must be because she's a daughter of Pluto. And I'm trying to think, what would be worse? To remember everything and have to be stuck with it? Or to not remember anything? I might hate that second option worse. Like, I hate when it's like, you walk in a room and you're like, what did I come in here for? What did I do? Or like you open a new tab on your web browser and you're like, what was I gonna do? Like, that frustrates me so much. So for your whole life to not be able to remember anything or put together anyone's face, I think that would bug me. Where do you two fall on that?
It's a tough question. I feel like I'd want to remember. And I feel like, if there's her, there's got to be others out there that also remember. So you could kind of come up with a little club. You know, you could have a little meeting spot.
Would it only be children of Pluto, though? Because that's at least her thought of why she can remember it.
Probably, yeah. And it'd be kind of interesting, though, because, you'd assume some of them would probably go to Elysium. Some might go to the Fields of Punishment. So it wouldn't be all of them. But you could talk to a bunch of people. Like, you could find out, what happens later. You could just wait around and be like, oh, that's cool. That's what the future's like, huh?
Okay. What about you? Would you want memories or no memories?
I would want my memories, but also partially because I think that that's what these books are advocating for.
Is keeping the memories?
Yeah, with Jason trying to get his memories back, Percy trying to get his memories back. We've got Hazel and her memories and the importance of remembering. And thematically, it's like, you have to keep your memories.
Yeah. Okay, no, I get it. Now, she immediately says that remembering made it harder. She kept trying to walk to her father's palace, but she could never reach it. And Frank asks if she ever saw her mother again. But Hazel says that her mom wouldn't know her even if she was able to find her, which Hazel isn't and wasn't able to do. So they sit in the field underneath a poplar tree, listening to the screams. And I was like, oh, that sounds pleasant. They can see Elysium and the Isles of the Blessed in the distance, which for sure makes it worse. To be able to see what could have been, oh, that sucks. The constant reminder.
But that's sort of her heroism, though. She turned it down. I feel like it tells us so much about Hazel, this part, the fact that she made that decision. And it's not just that she feels responsible. It's just integral to who she is. And it's so heroic in terms of how we think of heroes, giving up things to save people.
Yeah.
Even if they maybe don't deserve it.
Right, because she never questions it for a second in the moment or afterwards. And you're right. I think it was mainly just because she didn't want her mom to have to suffer. So it's just the ultimate selfless move.
Yeah, and to go back to what you're saying, earlier at the start of the chapter, she accepts all this blame because, that's sort of the thing is, to do all of this stuff, there's a lot of collateral damage. And I think that's something that, these books up until this point have, addressed a little, but not a lot. They were starting to get a little into, being a hero. There's bad stuff that happens. And even if you think you're doing the right thing, That doesn't mean it's going to be perfect.
Yeah, I mean, and that definitely is going to be a theme in the next chapter when we meet our new, in quotation marks, friend. So that's definitely something that comes up. That's a good point. Frank tells Hazel that she deserves to be there in the good place. And he includes that she was going to grow up to be a beautiful woman. And instantly his face turns purple in embarrassment, which is becoming a classic Frank move. Mm-hmm. He continues that she would have married someone, which is very funny coming from Frank being like, pick me, pick me. That she would have married someone, she would have had a good life, but she lost all of it. And Hazel fights back tears because to her, it's way more upsetting being here with Frank than it is to be alone. Hazel doesn't want to be angry at her fate. She doesn't want to think about how she deserved better because that's what her mom used to say. Her mom used to say, I deserve better, and then it led her down this terrible path. So she doesn't want to go down a similar one. Hazel says to Frank that she thinks his mom was wrong in saying that sharing a problem makes it easier to carry. But Frank disagrees and then does a cool segue into trying to talk about the stick since they have an eternity to do so now. So he takes out the stick and narrator Hazel notes that it glows with a purple light. And I was like, glows with a purple light? Since when is the stick glowing with a purple light? This will be answered in like 2 sentences. Mm-hmm. She begins to ask what it is, and then she recalls that Phineas said that Frank's life depends on a stick, and Frank calls it his literal lifeline. He details the story, ending by saying that his grandmother told him that he has gifts, which he now recognizes are from his Argonaut ancestor and his dad being Mars. And he says that he's supposed to be powerful, and Iris said that he is destined to die holding the burning stick. And then narrator Hazel says, quote, Frank turned the piece of tinder in his fingers, even in his ghostly purple form. And I was like, oh, that's where the purple light is coming from. I don't know if I missed a line where they said they were purple ghosts, but I was, for like multiple sentences, I was like, why is the stick purple? What is going on? Like, even in his ghostly purple form, he looked so big and sturdy. And I was like, okay, Hazel. But she kind of makes this line make sense because she follows it up by saying that Frank will be huge when he grows up, quote, as strong and healthy as an ox. But she uses all of this to contrast with the fact that his life depends on a tiny piece of tinder. So it's not just her, gassing him up and swooning over him, but she's saying he's going to be this big, strong dude, and this tiny little piece of wood determines his fate, which is an interesting sort of balance for him. So Hazel asks how Frank can carry this around without worrying something will happen to it. And Frank's like, about that. I do worry about this all the time. How would you feel about carrying this instead? He does preface it with, I know this is a lot, but I don't know if that does the job, man. You're literally asking someone to hold your life in their hands. That is super intense. I don't know. I don't think I would be able to handle this, but... we'll see what happens with it, but I think this is a big move in general for their friendship, relationship, everything. And I was very intrigued to see how Hazel would respond.
They trust each other. It's so sweet to see. We love a chapter where they actually open up about everything. They tell people the things. Mm-hmm. Doesn't happen a lot.
Right, or at least they'll try to do it and then some extraneous circumstance will happen. So I like that Frank's like, well, we're just chilling here doing nothing forever. So I tried to talk about this earlier, but then we got attacked by grass and stuff. Now, this is such a shock to Hazel that she questions whether or not this is actually Frank with her in the flashback right now. Hazel tells Frank that this is a bad idea because of all people, he should know that stuff always goes wrong for her as a daughter of Pluto. She asks why he would trust her, and he says because she's his best friend and he trusts her more than anyone. And I just really, really like it. Really, really like it a lot. All right.
Also, if you had the key to your life and heart, would you also not have given it to someone you had a crush on in high school? I feel like if you were ever going to do it, that's what you would do.
Because Frank's what, 16?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I didn't make smart decisions my sophomore, junior year of high school. I get it. Now, she's questioning if this is really him. Hazel wants to tell him that this isn't wise, but then a shadow covers them, and it's flashback Nico D'Angelo, who says to Hazel, you're different, a child of Pluto. You remember your past. And here's my question. How would he know to address her as a child of Pluto and not a child of Hades? Does he just look at her and he's just like, yes, Roman? Does he just get the vibe? How does he know?
No one knows. What's going on with Nico in these books is I don't know.
Nico has I know he's going to continue to be in the Heroes of Olympus books And I know he's in the Sun and the Star books. So like Nico is so interesting because he's all like broody, moody teenager or even preteen in the first 5 books. And then at least in book 5, he's like, I got this cool plan. Nobody talk to me. And then now in this one, he's like the comic relief character. Like so interesting. Like I don't know. I'm just waiting for, I guess what? He's been like broody, he's been funny, like is he gonna be like a rom-com, like is he gonna be the love interest in it? Like I'm so confused of what Nico will continue to do, but he's just like, I feel like he's different in every single series.
Did you read the Sword of Hades, like the short stories?
Yeah, in one of the Demigod Files ones.
Yeah.
Right.
Do you know there's a part where like Nico was in a graveyard in New Orleans? And, that's how I've always explained it.
Oh, that's this.
He, like, found out about her before he ended up down there.
Oh, I thought he was just being a spooky boy, but yeah.
Maybe.
That's cool. No, okay. I like that. Even if that's not the truth, I think that's a fun way. Because he does come upon her quite quickly. Mm-hmm. So, that's interesting. That'd be fun, like Detective Nico. Like he's like really trying to like.
The spin-off series.
Yes. Oh, with like a big hat. Come on. He's just wearing the Carmen Sandiego outfit, but he's a good guy.
Described in this chapter as wearing an overcoat.
He is? How did I miss that? Yeah. Wow, that's great. He has a really great outerwear game. He's got his aviator jacket. He's got an overcoat. Nico, drop the stylist.
Meanwhile, I'm just picturing season 1 of Supernatural, just like the papered wall to wall of like him hunting people down.
Unsurprisingly, I've never seen an episode of Supernatural. They have the car, right? Yeah. That's Supernatural, right? Yeah, okay. Right. There's the car. I was confusing that with Smallville. Is that the Superman one?
Yes.
Yeah, okay, great. Yeah, cool. All right, we continue. Percy Jackson. So Hazel, in response to Nico, says, yes, and you're alive. So I don't know how she can tell this, but I guess the daughter of Pluto, you can understand this. Nico studies her, then introduces himself and says that he was looking for his sister because Death was missing. And since Death is missing, he thought, I could just kind of bring her back and nobody would care, which kind of respected from Nico. Hazel asks if bringing someone back to life is actually possible. And Nico says, well, it should have been, but my sister is gone. Quote, she chose to be reborn into a new life. I'm too late. I'm very intrigued to see who this is going to be. I hope it gets revisited. But this was something that just got dropped earlier in this book. And I was like, did we know this? And then a lot of people are like, this is the first time we learn about this. So I'm glad that it's been brought up again. But I'm like, what is going on with Bianca? Is she going to come back like as a different person? Then we're going to learn that it's like, Bianca, how does it work? Because we've heard about people doing the go back thing, but we haven't at this point seen anyone who has done it, right? So like, I don't know, like, do you remember, you don't remember anything, right? Like, are you a completely different person? I don't know, like, the structure of how it works logistically. If it's too spoiler town, we don't have to get into it. That feels spoiler towny. Let's move on. I'm wondering, I'm intrigued. I hope Bianca comes back. I don't know if she would be Bianca or somebody else, but interesting. But anyway. Hazel says that she's sorry, and Nico extends his hand and says, quote, you're my sister too. You deserve another chance. Come with me. And that's the end of chapter 29, which I have retitled, We Stick It Out in the Fields. Do you two have retitling of chapter 29?
I wish I'd thought about this before getting up here.
Sorry, I probably should have prefaced that we do this on these episodes.
All I've got is a silly joke I just came up with, but then it passed, so I couldn't say it, which is his life depends on a shtick.
It's good. I like it.
Our lives depend on a shtick. That's actually most of Percy Jackson.
It's good. Love it. All right, let's get into a bit of chapter 30 before we break for intermission. But chapter 30 is a big, long, chunky one. So let's cover some of it. It's called Hazel. We'll retitle it. You can think about it during intermission while you retitle it. It opens with Hazel. Percy was shaking her shoulder. Wake up. We've reached Seattle. And I'm so stoked, baby. I was like, all right, cracks knuckles. Let's go. Seattle town. They don't do anything in Seattle that's cool. I was so upset. Ugh. Disgusting. Hopefully they do something after they figure out whatever they do. I would love if they're like, now that we're done, we went to the pinball museum. Like,
I mean, they get coffee.
Yeah. Oh.
Is there anything else?
How dare you? How dare you? I love Seattle. I was very upset so far. I'm hoping there's got to be more chapters. Please, please. But anyway, they go to Seattle. Hazel wakes up, checks on Frank, who's a bit confused about what just happened. He's also waking up. Percy explains that they both passed out, and Ella told Percy not to worry about it because, quote, you were sharing? Like, that's how Percy says, you were ... sharing. And I know that if Johnny Frolicstein was on stage doing this show, he, in response to this, would have said, oh, is that what they're calling it these days? And confirm I texted him that on the Amtrak train today. I used the iMessage reveal text. I was like, is this the joke you would have made to it? Think about it first and then reveal. And he was like, yeah, it's the second thing I thought of. So, sabbatical. In her normal jumbled manner of speaking, Ella gets across no more blackouts. And it seems maybe it's because Hazel shared. She just says Hazel shared, no more blackouts, Hazel shared with Frank. Now, here's a thought. Maybe it's because Frank was there. Maybe there's some sort of special bond going on. Or here's my theory. There's no more backstory for us as the reader to learn. Right? It's just we got up to present day Hazel. So that's why there's no more blackouts. What else are we going to do? Go back to her childhood where it's the first time I ate beignets in New Orleans. What else is there to learn? I think that's what's really happening, Rick.
You know what I never really thought about is how does Ella know so much about this?
Okay, I was like, is this a harpy thing? What's going on? I'm assuming we're going to learn later, but how does she know?
Well, my current theory is she's read this book also.
Oh, whoa. That's good.
Because I was sitting here how does this make sense? Oh, she's read
The Son of Neptune. Wow.
The canon implications of that might be too much, so I don't know.
I love it. Percy says, yeah, we've been having conversations like that all night. I don't know what she's talking about. Feels like a stressful situation for Percy to be in for who knows how long. Hazel puts her hand against her coat pocket and can feel the firewood in it. Now, how did this happen? Is this Harry in front of the mirror of the Erised? How did the stick transfer if they were just in Dreamtown? I don't get this. Unless, in their sleep, they were so it's the new version of sleepwalking? I don't know.
Well, I mean, if you think about it, though, that's what Percy saw. And so when Ella's they're sharing.
Oh, so maybe literally,
Percy's all right, I guess.
Maybe they did it. Hazel is a little bit surprised that it really was Frank that was actually there in the dream. He nods to confirm that he meant what he said and entrusts her with the stick. Percy is surprised to learn that they shared the blackout. He asks, are you guys going to be doing this together going forward? But Ella again says, no more blackouts, no more blackouts. And then she says that she wants more books and that she wants to get them when they're in Seattle. The narrator Hazel says, quote, Hazel gazed over the water. They were sailing through a large bay, making their way toward a cluster of downtown buildings. And I was like, ooh, it's Elliott Bay. It has to be. Then we get a very funny description of the Space Needle. Quote, from the tallest one, talking about hills that are around, from the tallest one rose an odd white tower with a saucer on top, like a spaceship from the old Flash Gordon movies Sammy used to love. And I double checked on the internet. I was like, was there never a World's Fair with one of these things back in the 40s? But it seems like that was more of a 1960s World Fair trend. At least when you have the one in Queens, that was in the 60s. And then the Space Needle was made for the 1962 World's Fair. So I don't know if in the 40s they had, we got to make a big tower with a circle on top. It's our contractual obligation making the World's Fair. So Hazel is excited at the prospect of no more blackouts after having dealt with them for so much of her life. And I'm thinking, yeah, we learned your whole deal. We don't need it anymore. We're good. We're all set. Hazel wonders how Ella could know this. And I was like, that makes two of us, Hazel. But she does admit to herself that she feels different. She feels more relaxed. She feels more grounded. She feels less like she's split between two worlds and two timelines. Narrator Hazel says, quote, she'd relived her entire past right through to the present. Now all she had to worry about was the future, assuming she had one, with had in italics. And I'm wondering, again, it's just Percy asked you specifically what happened after you died, and then you remembered what happened after you died. It just feels like there's this big grandiose explanation of what's happening. It's I don't know, I wouldn't completely rule out the flashbacks. Yes, you got to the present, but also you were very specifically prompted about the present right before you blacked out.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll continue. God, trapdoors are doing work today. So Percy steers the ship near the downtown docks. Ella gets nervous as they approach, and so does Hazel. She's not sure why, since Seattle looks lovely. And I was like, of course it does. It's June in Seattle. It's beautiful. But she has a feeling that they're being watched, which I found very intriguing. Hazel asks why they're stopping here, and Percy shows the ring on his necklace and says, because Reyna has a sister here that she wanted Percy to find and deliver the ring to. I was surprised that he never brought this up with them before, but I guess he never said
shares.
it. You're right. Right. Case in point. Boom. Proof is in the pudding. Frank is floored that Reyna has a sister. I love Frank getting gobsmacked by everything he learns about Reyna. He's like, Reyna takes baths? Reyna has a sister? Like, he has all these things where he's so surprised about her. Percy confirms and says that Reyna told him that she thinks that her sister can help the camp. So they're going to check it out. Ella says some gibberish about being in Amazon country. And I was like, oh, wait. Are they going to Seattle because Amazon's based in Seattle? I was like, Rick, did you? We'll just have to see. But I was, of all the reasons, come on. Frank asks if she means the female warriors, the Amazons. And Hazel says that it would make sense if Reyna's sister is anything at all like her. And I was thinking, ooh, are the Amazons going to kind of be like our Roman equivalent of the Hunters, where we've got this powerful all-woman tribe of sorts that hates boys? And there's definitely some overlap, but I don't think, is there any particular tie between Romans and Amazons, or are they just kind of like their own mythological thing?
No, they're really not in Roman mythology at all. They're just in the Greek stuff. And I think that makes sense because, ancient, historians, I'm putting them in quotes because they were working off the myth as a reality, to be clear, for a lot of them. Okay. But they I think they sort of assumed the Amazons came from, their mythic past of Greece. And people have speculated that they might have been inspired by certain peoples around, the Black Sea or in, the Eurasian steppes. But they all, would have been, in ancient Greek times, not ancient Roman, because that's a bit more recent.
Okay. Alrighty. Good to know. Hazel asks if it's safe for them to be here. Ella says no, and that they should get books instead while avoiding the Amazons. Percy says that they must try because he promised Reyna. He also points out that Pax isn't holding up super well, and Hazel notices that the floorboards are leaking. Percy says it either needs a repair or they need a new boat. And I'm thinking, whatever happens, they're going to leave Seattle on a cooler vessel than they arrived. This is classic Sea of Monsters, show up on a boat, leave in Blackbeard's ship. They're going to get an upgrade. And maybe it's a cooler boat. Maybe it's a seaplane, because that's definitely a Seattle thing. And being in the sky would be helpful for them. So I feel like whatever it is, it's going to be cooler than what they showed up on.
One of my favorite parts of this book is the amount of times the Roman Navy catches a stray for no reason.
This is something that, timeline-wise, we're recording this on February 1st, and whatever episode very recently came out was the first one where they get the boat. And all of the comments are from various nerds being like, they put the Roman Navy way too much on blast. This is overestimated. They were fine. They were okay. Is that your read on it? Because a lot of people are like, Rick is taking too much of the piss out of that.
It's that thing where they're not famous for it, but that's because all the stuff they're famous for were land battles. But the thing that put Rome on the map politically was a series of 3 naval battles called the Punic Wars.
Oh, I didn't realize those were naval battles. Oh.
Yeah. I think one of them still is the record for most number of ships lost in a naval battle ever.
Whoa.
Because the Mediterranean will have a storm and just wreck. Everybody.
Okay. Alrighty. Well, yes, many people have spoken up in defense of the Roman Navy. So, Roman Navy, we got you. Percy asks Ella where to find the Amazons, and Frank interjects to make sure they don't just kill men on sight, right? And at first, this was kind of a joke. When we get to what happens, Frank was kind of correct. They're very hostile. Ella says that she will rejoin the team later and will fly away for now, and she lives up to her word and does so. And Frank goes, well, that's encouraging. They dock and they get off just before Pax breaks into pieces. The only boards that don't sink are one with a P on it and one with part of one of the eyes on it. And I was screaming, save the 2 planks and ship of Theseus this, where it's still the Pax, but it'll be cooler. Save them, but they don't grab them. I wanted them to keep them.
It's the symbolism, though, the vessel named for peace, it's breaking.
Yes.
Foreshadowing.
War is afoot.
Literature.
So Hazel, after this breaks, goes, guess we're not fixing it. And then she asks, what now? And Percy says, let's hope the Amazons will help. And I'm thinking, all right, here we go. Thinking we're going to get some cool Seattle stuff. But we just get this from narrator Hazel. They explored for hours. They found some great salty caramel in a candy store. And I'm thinking, okay, maybe Beecher's, which is like yeah, it could be. I think they do caramel, right? They do the big cheese thing, but don't they also do caramel? He asks the crowd not from Seattle watching. I'm going to just Google Beecher's caramel. I feel like they do it. No, they only do cheese. Okay, Beecher's only does cheese. My bad. Oopsie. My apologies, Seattle. I never went. It's in like the touristy. It's like next to the Starbucks in Pike's Place. I never went. So they get some salty caramel. Then they also get coffee that is so strong that Hazel's head feels like a vibrating gong. This could be anywhere in Seattle. Then they stop at a sidewalk cafe with excellent grilled salmon sandwiches. This could be anywhere. And I was like, damn it, we're getting references that are not specific enough for me. Like, where I want them to go to the Fremont Troll. I want them to go to Gasworks Park. Like, I want them to do all the cool nerdy stuff. They then see Ella at one point flying with books clutched in her talons, but they don't see any Amazons. But then, narrator Hazel says, quote, finally, they wandered south of downtown into a plaza surrounded by smaller glass and brick buildings. Hazel's nerves started tingling. She looked around, sure she was being watched. And then she points at a building and says, there. And narrator Hazel says, the office building on their left had a single word etched on the glass doors, Amazon. And I wrote, damn it. I don't want Jeffrey Bezos to canonically exist in the Percy Jackson universe. This sucks. I get this one was written in 2012, so we've approached like Amazon does more than books, but it's not like Amazon is terrible. Like, it's us being like, oh, you can get free shipping if you order enough stuff. Like, I get we're in the, like, I'm not holding it against Rick, but I was very disappointed that Mr. Bezos is in the books.
Is he mentioned?
No, so it could be someone else. I don't know. I was frustrated. So let's see if this is just me and my notes being like grumble. I've already grumbled.
As I don't know, I can't speak for everybody, but I know everyone I've talked to about this has the same feelings about this.
like upset that it's Amazon,
like,
the Amazon.
You know, there's so many great and cool creative moments in this book, and I get that it's kind of a bit that it's the obvious one.
Yeah.
Like, I get the comedy of it, but I remember reading it for the first time just being like, oh.
Yeah.
Oh.
It's also, I don't know, I feel like part of the cool thing about the Amazons from my very limited knowledge of them, which is watching Kelly watch Wonder Woman 1984 in the background.
Right.
Because it came out like free to stream and I was like, I've heard this movie's really bad. You shouldn't watch it. And her was just like, we're going to watch it anyway. And I was like, I'm going to work. And so I saw like some small portions of that film. It feels like the cool thing about the Amazons is they're like in the jungle and stuff, right?
Yeah.
Like they're in like nature. So for them to be in a corporate shipping and receiving warehouse feels like they've ruined all the fun of the Amazons.
Yeah, it's like, I don't know. I've been turning around and around how I feel about them being like super capitalist and just being like,
It kind of works for this depiction where we'll see that they like mostly suck. So it like tracks that it's like, oh yeah, Amazon and the Amazon's like, sure. But I don't know. I was upset, but there is like one thing that saves it, and we'll do that to end the act in this portion. So Frank tries to correct Hazel that they're an internet retailer, they're not actually Amazons. And I was like, oh, Frank correcting her makes sense. He's not mansplaining. Like, she existed in a time before Amazon.
I do think it is really funny that we're in Hazel's POV for this part.
Yeah.
Like, she doesn't know.
Right. Yeah. So that's better. So,
she sees a sign, she points.
Frank corrects her, but then Percy goes, unless, and then they go in and it's correct. And I was like, all right, like for Percy going unless, ... pretty good. So that's where we'll stop here for intermission. If you're listening to the podcast, we'll take our mid-roll break here, the Son of Fortune, and then come back. So let's all say goodbye to the podcast people. Goodbye!
Hello and welcome to the Son of Fortune Houston edition. I'm coming to you from my sister's bedroom closet. Yep, it's the ideal place to record here at Barb and Joel's place. And I've got updates with the podcast. I actually have a ton of updates, so let's get into all of those updates first. After many weeks of hyping these up and hinting here and there, we've got 2 new merchandise items that are live for you right now at thenewsolympian.com/merch. The first of which is a new enamel pin design. These are my very legal PDF pins. These were also designed designed by Timothy Wu, who did our HOO-inspired posters, which you can also get on the TNO merch store. But it's like a tiny little PDF thing, like the Adobe preview kind of thing, but he's got a menacing face, and he's basically going, and it says My Very Legal PDF, and they're small and cute and adorable. Those are up on the merch store. We also have the TNO version of the I Took Latin in High School notebooks. So anyone who was familiar with Potterless when it was going on, we did I Took Latin in High School notebooks for Potterless, and they were purple. Now we have teal TNO ones, and they were designed by Kelly Schubert. They've got a bunch of little TNO Easter eggs in the artwork behind it, so those are available as well. Both in limited quantities, just 100 of them each on the merch store. The rest I'll be selling live at live shows throughout this year, but you can get them wherever you are at thenewsolympian.com/merch. Speaking of the live shows, first I got to thank everybody who came to the Houston show last night. If you're listening to this the day it came out on the public podcast feed, but today, if you were listening to this on the Patreon feed, because I'm getting this episode up a day early, very early Sunday morning, and by that I mean late Saturday night, late night editing, but past the midnight mark. But yeah, that's a Patreon perk. You get early and ad-free episodes. But speaking of the live shows, we've got a bunch coming up. The next batch of live shows is that Midwest tour. But even if you don't live in the Midwest, I have exciting news for you. It is official. We are going to be streaming the Des Moines, Iowa show, which is going to be on April 13th. Tickets are going to go live on March 13th. So make sure you're following at News Olympian on social media. That is where we will first be posting links to them, and it'll be up on the website at thenewsolympian.com/live as well. But yes, April 13th, the Des Moines, Iowa show, which is half TNO, half Potterless, will be live streamed. If you are a patron, you get 20% off, just like we did for the last stream. And just like we do for all of our streams, it'll come with a 7-day replay, so you don't have to watch it right as it's airing live if you live in Europe or Australia, and that's a weird time, or if you live in America and that's just a weird day or time. So you'll have a full week to watch the replay of it. No worries there. And content-wise, that show is going to be the first 2 chapters of the 3rd book in the Heroes of Olympus series, which I don't know the name of. I don't know what the 3rd book is. So it's book 3, chapters 1 and 2. Eric Schneider should be our guest for that show unless things change on the touring schedule. But as I said, tickets will go live for that on Thursday, March 13th. Make sure you follow us on social media or head on over to thenewsolympian.com/live to get those tickets. Now, I did mention the Patreon. I want to give a shout out to the folks who have joined the Patreon most recently. Shout out to our newest God tier patrons, Abby Armijo, Claire Verart, and Chrissy15. And shout out to our newest demigod tier patrons, Zamir Umar and Katrina Hagedorn. Thank you all so much for your support. May Hestia bless you that if you are ever in the heat of Texas, you can survive it, whether that be avoiding sunburn or your hair product melting out of your hair, various things that could happen to you. And definitely may have happened to me. Now, if you're all caught up on the News Olympian and you're looking for some new content to consume, you are in luck because I make a whole bunch of content. And if you like this podcast, you might like some of the other podcasts that I make. One of the ones you might enjoy is a podcast that I make with my buddy Adam Amwala, who is a stand-up comedian. We make a show called Horse. It's a basketball podcast where we describe the sport in a way that is accessible to all. So let's say you have no idea what's going on with this Luka Doncic trade that everybody keeps talking about. We break it down in terms you can understand by talking about how it compares to like if boy bands made a trade. So you can go and listen to that wherever you hear podcasts by searching for Horse or by going to our website, horsehoops.com. We talk about the NBA, we talk about the WNBA. It's a good time. Now, unless you are listening on Patreon, where you get access to ad-free episodes, you're going to hear words from a few sponsors make it feasible for me to be a full-time podcaster. Some of those ads will be read by me, and others of them won't be. The ones that aren't read by me are inserted locally. So if you live in Houston, Texas, don't be surprised if you hear an ad for Taqueria Ruby number 5. Honestly, you should be surprised if you hear an ad by them, because I don't think that they really do podcast marketing. And if they do podcast marketing and they're not sponsoring me, I don't know what they're doing. But once those ads are complete, we'll get back into this episode of the News Olympian.
How's it going, everybody? Hope you had a good intermission. We missed you all so dearly, and we didn't hit our heads on the speaker. Let's go! 3 in a row. We're doing great. Did I hit my head on the speaker during sound check? Who's to say? The welt on my head. Okay, let's get back. Let's do chapter 30 and then some Q&A. Now, we last left our heroes. They were going inside of Amazon. Fart noise. All right. Hazel has a bad feeling about this place. Yeah, you should. But she and Frank follow Percy inside, and they enter the lobby, and they see a woman in a pantsuit with a security earpiece, and her name tag says Kinsey. She reminds Hazel of late night cops in New Orleans. They're always looking through you as if they're thinking about who will attack them next. Kinsey nods at Hazel, ignoring the boys. And I was like, okay, probably this could lend some credence to the Amazons, and asks if she can help her. Hazel says that they're looking for Amazons, and Kinsey looks at their weapons directly, which Hazel is thinking at this point, wait a second, they're supposed to be the mist. Why can she see through this? What's going on here? But then Kinsey says that this is the main campus for Amazon and asks if she has an appointment with anyone. And then Percy just blurts out, Hylla! And I am excited for them to see Hylla. I would hope that this all works out. And faster than even Hazel's eyes can follow, Kinsey kicks Frank in the chest and sends him flying across the lobby. Now, I normally don't request these, but Robert from the Damn Meme page does usually make memes about these episodes of TNO. I feel like the only choice for here is the 50 Cent, why he say F me though? Just kick, like, what the, why, what did he say F me for? Sorry, to get it right. But like, what the,
why did she says it and Frank gets kicked?
Right, that's why I was like, hold on, did she miss, like, who said, like, what are you doing? But then I remember, oh, okay, yeah, the Amazon. I guess Frank asking, they're not gonna, it does make it funnier for Frank to be the first one to be kicked, because he was like, they're not gonna just kill us, right? And then just like, what? So he gets kicked. Then she unsheaths the sword, trips Percy with the flat of it, and then points the tip of it at his neck. And then Hazel reaches for her sword, but then a dozen women with swords flood in and surround her. Kinsey reveals that Percy broke the first rule. Males don't speak without permission. She says that the second rule is that trespassing is punishable by death. She says that Queen Hylla, and I was like, oh, it's not just Hylla, it's Queen Hylla, will be the one deciding their fate. Now our team's weapons are confiscated. They are brought way, way, way downstairs, just many, many, many floors below, and the narrator Hazel gives this description. Finally, they emerged in a cavern so big it could have accommodated 10 high schools, sports fields, and all. Stark fluorescent lights glowed along the rock ceiling. Conveyor belts wound through the room like water slides carrying boxes in every direction. Aisles of metal shelves stretched out forever, stacked high with crates of merchandise. Cranes hummed and robotic arms whirred, folding cardboard boxes, packing shipments, and taking things on and off belts. Some of the shelves were so tall, they were only accessible by ladders and catwalks, which ran across the ceiling like theater scaffolding. So we're very much in the new version of Amazon. Because when I was reading this, I was like, is it just book Amazon? Is it everything Amazon? This is like stuff Amazon at full force.
Oh, yeah.
It also did make me think a little bit about the Hermes section of the second Percy Jackson film, which I didn't want to be reminded of, but I was. Yeah. So it felt like that also. But Hazel thinks back to newsreels showing the production of weapons for the war, but this makes that look like child's play, especially because of the usage of computers and robots. And this made me think, how is Hazel not freaking out constantly? I guess she got this out of her system. Like, how long has she been back? Because it feels like every 5 seconds she could be like, what? There's so much development that changed between the 1940s and present day.
Especially because I'm assuming she spent most of the time that she's been back at camp not seeing any of this.
Yeah, because the camp isn't necessarily modern by any means. So I feel like there's so many technological things that she should be like completely surprised by. Like the food trucks in Portland should have blown her mind. What do you mean there's food in this truck? I feel like she should be freaking out way more, but it would just be distracting for the book.
I mean, do they have cable in Camp Half-Blood? I'm sure Mr. D was on that.
But in Camp Jupiter, though?
Well, I mean, Camp Jupiter is pretty high. I mean, compared to Camp Half-Blood,
right.
Camp Jupiter, I feel like they've got some stuff figured out.
Yeah. Do we know how long she's been resurrected for? Because, like, Frank's only been there for, like, a month. Wasn't Hazel only, like, 3 months or something? Is this something? Longer. Jason remembers her. Okay.
That's true.
Okay. So just before Jason disappeared. Okay. So between 6 months and a year. Cool. Thank you, collective minds.
Yeah.
All with our powers combined, we can remember 12 chapters ago. Which for me, I read that like months ago at this point. So, okay, yeah, regardless, her freaking out about this would make sense. She's at least impressed by all of the stuff that's going on. Now, the only people that Hazel see are some security women and then some men in orange jumpsuits, like prison attire. They have iron collars on their necks and they're driving around forklifts. And Hazel asks if these people are really out here having slaves. And Kinsey scoffs this off with, quote, the men, they're not slaves. They just know their place. Now, move. There's 2 directions this can go. This is either like a badass girl boss kind of thing, or those guys are slaves. Like, and I can't tell what's the truth. At least to my knowledge, we don't learn more about like the dudes here. What are your reads on our jumpsuit forklift driver men? Like, is it just they're afraid that they're going to get attacked? Like, I was intrigued by how they have this army of dudes and what the iron collars are doing.
I feel like they're slaves.
Yeah, okay. I mean, that's a perfectly valid read. Asked and answered. They're slaves. So they walk for so long.
But it's also like in a girl boss way.
Yeah. Like, yeah, they're slaves, but look how cute the outfits are. They're all. They walk for so long that Hazel's feet begin to hurt. They even enter a second giant cave, and Hazel says, the underworld isn't this big. And then Hazel immediately notes, which probably wasn't true, but it felt that way to her feet. Kinsey, with a smug smile, says, you admire our operations? And explains that it took years and most of their fortune to build, but now they will be richer than any mortal nation. The mortals don't know they are funding the Amazon kingdom. Quote, then when the weak mortals depend on us for everything, the revolution will begin. And I was like, does Rick Riordan have the gift of foresight? Because in 2012...
Yeah.
I didn't think we had a lot of, I mean, I was in college, like, I don't know. In college, I was like, I can get things delivered quickly, and if I buy enough of them, it's free. So I didn't have my ears perked up to being Amazon is evil. But, like, is Rick cooking?
He must. I mean, yeah, rereading that paragraph now really hit different. But, I mean, well, okay, so here's the thing, though. I was looking this up because I was trying to figure out, okay, Amazons are Amazon. Implications, what does this mean? And, you know, I spent way too long thinking about this.
AKA just the right amount of time.
So Amazon was founded in 1994.
Uh-huh.
Important timeline. It's actually not. I just, you know. So they haven't been going for that long at this point. So I'm like, okay, so the Amazons then must have existed before this. But here's the other background on Amazon, though, that I think most people might not know. It started as just books.
Yes.
And something that is also kind of interesting is the book industry had a much bigger negative impact from Amazon sooner than a lot of other industries, because Amazon kind of came in and was able through ebooks specifically, although actually I'd have to look up when ebooks really first started to become a thing through Amazon, but they were able to lower their prices so much that other books weren't able to like compete from like big publishing. And it's actually become like a huge issue to the point that a lot of the big publishers right now are trying to consolidate to be able to compete with Amazon for market share.
Oh, so it was just people being like, well, the book is $20, but the ebook is $15. I'll just buy a Kindle and then ebook it up.
Yeah, and then there's also like a huge rise as well in like self-publishing, which is great for authors, but it also in certain publishing industries makes it difficult to compete because a lot of people are able to sell them for much lower prices. Mm-hmm. Versus if you're doing traditional publishing, there's still a whole bunch of people involved in the making of the book that aren't the author. So you have to charge a lot more to justify it. This is getting into the weeds of publishing.
No, but I think what this is getting to is like, did Rick write them as the villains because he, as an author, was pissed at Amazon? Is that the reason why?
That definitely could check out. This, yeah, because I feel like he's always sort of been, I think, an author who's sort of fighting for other authors on their behalf. So I can see him having his finger on the pulse of this.
Right. Or at least, like, if anyone was going to have an earlier read on Amazon is evil and is going to take over the world, it would be specifically an author that's trying to sell books to be like, wait a second, because they would know the evil before us who were just being like, I can get toilet paper quicker. Like,
yeah. It's like the market disruption that they kind of did for everybody, like, started there. So he's maybe seeing the writing on the wall a little bit.
Yeah, we've entered a new thing I will just talk to Rick Riordan about. Like, if I ever do get the interview, it'll be a mess. It'll be a mess, and none of it will be about the books. None of it will be about any content. It'll just be about things like this. Like, do you really hate Dean Martin? What's going on there?
I feel like, no, then it's just like, what's your beef? What's your beef with?
All the beef. Right, yeah, that's exactly what it'll be. It'll just be an hour of like, do you hate this thing that you made your character not like? Now, in response to all of this, Frank gives an incredible reply. He goes, what are you going to do? Cancel free shipping? Yes. A guard slams the hilt of her sword into his gut. Percy tries to help, but then the two guards push him away and then hold him at sword point. Worth it. It was a really good joke. Kinsey says that they will learn respect, saying it is males who have ruined the mortal world, and the only path to a harmonious world is for it to be run by women. And I was like, But then Percy has a great moment because she's doing this whole rant about women being better. She says women are stronger, wiser, and then Percy goes, more humble. I love making this joke, usually about myself, like facetiously or something, but this particular joke I think is very funny. For Percy to make it is very funny. And then what's even funnier about it being Percy, though, when he makes this joke, is that the guards try to hit Percy, but he's able to dodge their blows, which I think is pretty funny. For him to know, like, I saw them do this to Frank. I feel like I can take these guys. Let me get one in. And then be like, whoop. So good. It's so funny. So Hazel then yells, stop it. It's unclear at who she's yelling at, or maybe she's just yelling at all of them to stop. But she says that if Hylla is going to judge them, can they just be taken to Hylla? Otherwise, you're just wasting our time. So let's just go. Kinsey thinks that Hazel may be right. They have more important problems and time is an issue. And when Hazel asks what she means by that, a guard suggests taking them straight to Otrera. And I was like, oh, who are you? Gotta ask Dr. Moya, but we'll learn more about her in a sec. The reason this person wants them to go straight to Otrera is that they, quote, might win favor that way. It's like, what the heck is going on? Kinsey refuses defiantly, stating that Hylla is queen. And a guard mutters, until tonight. I was like, what is going on? What is that? They explain it. It's all good. Kinsey then grips her sword like she's really angry. Hazel thinks they're about to throw down, but Kinsey calms herself and calls for everyone to follow and continue onward. Now, most of the merchandise that they pass in this warehouse is pretty standard stuff, but they do pass a war chariot with a sign that says, only one left in stock, order soon, more on the way. Here's my question. What is the point of having this in the warehouse? No one's going shopping here. It's the warehouse. Right?
Maybe it's like a live stream? Maybe that's maybe.
I was just very confused by the logistics of like, they didn't want to let people in at all. So why are they having sales?
Maybe it's an internal thing. Is it an employee sale? You know, like, what's a term? An employee sample sale?
Yeah, the samples. Yeah, okay. Maybe that's what it is. They're trying to get the security guards or the men with forklifts. Like, please, don't you want to buy this chariot? It's so much better than your forklift. So they arrive at a smaller cavern that looks like a loading zone and a throne room combined together. There are shelves of war banner shields and taxidermied heads of animals on the wall. There's men driving forklifts with an Amazon guarding. She's on like a mounted crossbow above them. And the shelves in this room are stacked with cages of live animals. There's mastiffs, eagles, griffin, giant ant, a pegasus. And Hazel asks, what are you doing with these animals? And Kinsey makes it apparent that these animals are also for sale, which, if you didn't think the Amazon people were bad enough, this is like big yikes from the Amazons. Rick making it very clear, we don't like these people. Do they have slaves? Potentially. Are they selling animals? Definitely.
It is kind of interesting because it's one of those things in mythology that I have a lot of feelings about because it's a consistent thing in mythology that the Greeks found nothing scarier than foreign women with power.
Okay.
Like Circe, Medea, like all of these tropes of the sorcerers. And like what's scary about them is like, oh my God, she has power. Oh no. What if the other women get ideas? But so traditionally the Amazons are kind of used in a lot of Greek art, ancient Greek art specifically, to like represent all of these like foreign forces. Like they're often depicted on temples and stuff, like battling the Amazons, but it's really the Persians. And so they kind of use like these groups, like the Amazon specifically in art, to represent like all of the forces acting against their civilization sometimes. So it's kind of interesting though to see this take like being brought modern where it's like, oh, capitalism.
Yeah.
But also, I'm like, but there's a little bit of misogyny in the way the Greeks did it. So this is, again, where I have mixed, like, I have certain feelings about the way this is.
You got to talk to Rick and figure, like, what were you thinking when you did this? Were you in the right frame of mind?
Yeah, so it's like, I don't know. It's like interesting. Like, I see both ways, but, gaslight, gatekeep, girl boss.
Yeah. Now, Percy is surprised that you can buy a Pegasus online. Kinsey says, well, not you. It's only for other Amazons to buy. We have people across the world. And then at the end of the warehouse is a dais of books on pallets, including The 5 Habits of Highly Aggressive Women, which is a good
classic,
little
honestly.
joke of that. Yeah, classic.
Have you read it?
The Odyssey?
What? No, the 5.
I thought you said classic Odyssey. What did you say?
The what is it? The 5 Habits of Aggressive Women.
I've not read that one. What's the joke it's inspired off of? Like the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People.
Yeah.
That was like an early like good take Mike Schubert thing where like I had to read that for like a leadership thing in college, and like halfway in I was like, this book sucks. I was like, but I know this is for like a thing and it's supposed to be good, but halfway through it's like, this is bad. I don't like this book. And then later on I was like, good job, Mike Schubert. That was nice of you. But yeah, fun little joke for Rick to make about self-help books. Now, at the bottom, there are camouflaged Amazons in a heated debate with a young woman that Hazel figures as Queen Hylla. Narrator Hazel describes Hylla as being in her 20s, lithe and lean. She's got a black leather jumpsuit and boots. She's wearing no crown, but instead a belt of interlocking gold links like a labyrinth pattern. You know what's cooler than a crown? A belt of interlocking gold links like a labyrinth pattern.
Yeah, it sounds like this is a good fit. It's good.
Yeah, like her whole outfit. Are you kidding? Like black leather jumpsuit, boots, and this belt? Come on. We need people cosplaying specifically as Hylla because this is great. So good. Now, she has a striking resemblance to Reyna, just older, which that's how older sisters usually work. And she has a hard expression on her face, quote, like she was trying to decide which of the Amazons before her most deserved death. Kinsey mutters that the people arguing are Otrera's agents spreading lies. And thankfully for us, the reader, Frank goes, what? And then Hazel stops in her tracks because the horse from Alaska is here. From the way back Alaska flashback. He stares at Hazel with a look that she could swear means, about time you got here. And Kinsey notices Hazel regarding the horse and goes, beautiful, isn't he? And Hazel knows that it's the same horse, but thinks it's impossible because no horse could live that long. I don't know how long horses live. I'm not good at animals, but regardless, the thing that is going to fix the horse being too old, in quotation marks, if it's a special magical horse, if it's an immortal horse, an imhorstal. Like if this is a magical Roman horse, it's not a normal horse, it's going to live forever. I hope this is also the case for Blackjack, because if Blackjack ever dies, I'm not going to be okay. I'm not going to be doing all right. Hazel asks if this horse is for sale. Guards laugh, and Kinsey explains that he is Arion, a royal treasure of the Amazons, which a prophecy states is to be claimed by only their most courageous warrior. And like, maybe that's Hazel? I don't know. Is Arion a thing, or is this like a new thing?
If he's a thing, he's not one I have committed to memory. So
Okay.
he might be mentioned at some point or come up. I should look it up. I'll
check
get back to you.
in. I'll check in with Dr. Moya to see, but I didn't know if this was like a famous kind of horse from lore. But what Kinsey continues to explain about Arion is that, you know, the whole courageous warrior thing is only if you believe a prophecy. So some prophecy states that this is who can ride it. So Hazel very thankfully goes, prophecy? And Kinsey, very unhelpfully, just goes, never mind. But no, he's not for sale. And I was like, oh, come on, tell us the prophecy. Yeah, I hope it comes up, but we'll see.
It seems it goes against their business practices to not sell things. I mean, the chariot's right there.
It's their whole vibe. Do a combo deal. Give me a horse. Give me a chariot.
Or not? Like,
Hazel asks, well, okay, why is he in a cage? And Kinsey says that it's because he is difficult. And I was like, all right, well, it sounds like a skill issue. You guys should just get better at taking care of this horse. At that moment, Arion headbutts the cage. I love Arion. I'm all in on Arion. I hope he becomes either friends or lovers with Blackjack. Or Tempest or Scipio. Like, I want them all. They should all be friends. Give me a spin-off book with all of our friend horses. Get Rainbow in the mix. Give me all the horse friends together. I would love it. Narrator Hazel says, quote, Hazel wanted to free that horse. She wanted it more than anything she ever wanted before. But Percy, Frank, and a dozen Amazon guards were staring at her, so she tried to mask her emotions. Just asking. She managed. Let's see the queen. She's going to get that horse, and I'm so stoked about it.
she's a master of subtlety. She just played that off so well.
Let's let the queen. Let's talk to the queen. Now, the argument around Hylla grows louder and louder until she yells, enough, upon seeing our team enter. Kinsey begins to explain the situation, but she stares at Percy with the white-hot intensity of 1,000 suns and goes, you! Narrator Hazel says, quote, Percy muttered something in ancient Greek that Hazel was pretty sure the nuns at St. Agnes wouldn't have liked. That's the second time she's used this to identify a curse word, so I like that this is kind of her go-to. Percy then just replies, clipboard, spa, pirates. And I'm thinking, oh, right. Was Percy going to get his memories back? That was a thing that I thought happened. And then the chapter was too interesting and I forgot about it. So it seems like at this point that he doesn't. But as he goes on, he starts remembering more and more. So maybe it's like a slow reveal of the memories. I will see as I continue to read the book. Hazel is confused. Hylla is not. She draws her dagger and calls Percy foolish for coming here. She says that he destroyed her home and made her and Reyna exiles and prisoners. Frank asks, what's the scary with the dagger talking about, Percy? And Percy says Cersei's island just came to his memory. He wonders if the Gorgon's blood is working. He says that Hylla welcomed them to the docks and brought them to her boss, the sorceress. So this had me excited because they had brought up the whole Cersei spot thing, and I couldn't remember if Hylla was someone specific or if it was like a new character. I knew we had Clipboard Person. I couldn't remember if Clipboard Person was named, but Clipboard Person is named as Hylla, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
She welcomes them at the
Yeah.
docks.
Okay, so it's not like a retcon. This is like straight up just like we're fleshing out a character, which I'm excited to see. Like when they do the TV show, like is Hylla going to be there? Are they going to like do anything more with her? Will they just like address her by name? Like it's an interesting thing
Who
of
knows?
the timeline that we're currently in of like reading this book for me and then the show coming out. It's like, oh, what's going on? Hylla's like on the brain.
I know, it feels like a fortuitous callback.
Yeah. So we'll have to see. I don't know. I'm intrigued. And I'm, of course, very excited for the show, which finished their principal shooting today, right? That's super cool. So it's happening. Let's go.
Woohoo!
Percy says she welcomed them to the island for her boss, the sorceress. Hylla believes that Percy might actually be honest with this whole amnesia claim because she thinks, quote, why else would you be stupid enough to come here? Hazel says they come in peace and asks what Percy did. And Hylla goes, peace? What did he do? This male destroyed Cersei's school of magic.
Again, that's such a good joke. They did come in peace. They came unpacked.
Oh! The horse's name is Friday. That's good. They literally came
Actually,
in
that
peace.
is such a Roman joke to make, though, to be like, what do you mean? We came in peace.
Yeah. That was also
We
a thing.
didn't destroy your village. We came in peace.
That's funny. I was thinking this thought today on the train, just because, like, when we say, because I typoed texting you, are we on the same train? When you were leaving on the Metro North the same time I was leaving on the Amtrak, it typoed and said, are we in the same train? And I was like, in the train makes more sense than on the train. I'm not on the train. I'm in the train. But then there's all these different things where you're like, okay, where you're like, you're in a car, but you're on a train. When we do in or on is like a whole thing.
It's a thing of inline versus online.
Wait, inline like skates and online like the internet?
Like when you're standing in line for something or online for something.
Oh, yeah. Whoa, I do kind of use them interchangeably. And then there's like, are you in Long Island or on Long Island? Which like, there's so many. Oh, we could do this forever. But yeah, now you're getting to like, we came in peace. It's like, well, they were on the boat, but they're also in a boat.
Yeah.
But then the song is, I'm on a boat.
Well, that's the text. You know, that's the dictionary. So you got to go with that one.
Gosh, man, wow. This could, anyway, Percy Jackson. Percy protests, which he protests in something that I think is very valid. He says, Cersei turned me into a guinea pig. And Hylla responds, no excuses. I don't know that that's an excuse. That seems like a reason, like a very valid reason.
To me, that just sounds like a man trying to compare one thing that happened to him that really wasn't that bad to women's struggles. I mean...
Okay, touche.
Sorry, this is the bit.
But did Percy actually do this? Because really, wasn't it Annabeth who did it? She dumped in the multivitamins, right? Like, she dumped in the multivitamins, the pirates grew back, and then the pirates destroyed, right? So, like, it wasn't Percy's fault. But then I guess by Percy having the audacity to be a man and show up on the island, he got put in the cage in the first place, so Annabeth wouldn't have dumped the vitamins into the cage. Oh.
That's on him.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. It all comes back to it's Percy's fault for being a boy. How dare he? Yeah.
Yeah.
Hylla says that Cersei was a wise and generous employer. She gave Hylla room and board, health coverage, including dental, pet leopards, free potions, and more. And I was like, all right, she does like she's doing it. It seems pretty good.
No. That's what the corporations want you to think.
Yeah. But then she ends up by saying, and this demigod with his friend, the blonde. And then Percy, of course, goes, Annabeth. Hylla continues that Percy released the captives. And I was like, that is a stretch. Like, I don't know that he just like, they happened to be released by him growing. But she says that he released the captives who then kidnapped her, which he adds was not fun. They burned the spot to the ground and Hylla and Reyna were kept as prisoners for months. But thankfully, as daughters of Bellona, they learned to fight quickly. And then she says, quote, well, the pirates learned to respect us. Eventually, we made our way to California where and she hesitates. And after hesitating goes, where my sister and I parted ways. So we'll learn about that later.
Is that not the craziest backstory?
Yeah, like, so they don't know how to fight. They get captured. They just, like, learn how to fight like Batman in The Dark Knight Rises. And then they break free. The line in particular, well, the pirates learned to respect us. I was like, this could mean anything. Like, they could be dead. Like, maybe they actually do respect them. Like, they could have done some trickery. Like, they could have just fought them. I have no idea what it means, but it's very intriguing. I completely agree with you. But then, yeah, even wilder going to California. And then, like, something happened. They parted ways. I don't know what. But they both seem to be thriving in positions of power. So, like, they're doing great. Mm-hmm. But then she gets right up in Percy's grill. The book says nose to nose and then puts her dagger under his chin and says, quote, of course I survived and prospered. I have risen to the queen of the Amazons. So perhaps I should thank you. And I guess it is strange. Like, aren't the Amazons traditionally like of a certain descendancy? So like for her to become the queen, is that strange? Or like could a daughter of Bellona be the queen of the Amazons?
I feel like I'm okay with the interpretation of them being like, because the thing is like they only really exist in mythology, so I'm okay with them kind of being like a place where if you like make it to them, you can join their ranks and become a warrior.
Okay.
Like I don't know, I kind of like that.
You can earn it.
Yeah.
You don't have to just be born into it. You don't have to be a nepo baby. You can earn it.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. How long ago was Sea of Monsters in the canon at this point?
So. Thank you.
Thank you.
That saves us time. I was about to do the math.
Yeah. So yeah, 4 years though. 4 years. That's pretty.
That's impressive.
Dare I say girl boss?
I mean, she might be.
Is that joke tired yet?
Never. She says, I've risen to Queen of the Amazons, so perhaps I should thank you. And then Percy, because he can't not, goes, you're welcome. He has a literal knife under his throat. They are nose to nose with someone who wants to kill him. He has not explained why he's here or who sent him. And he's like, I thought of a really good joke. I gotta do it. You're welcome. Like,
He's so annoying.
Perfectly annoying. I respect this so much. But again, I'm someone who trash talks in everything. Now, when Percy says this, Hylla digs her knife deeper into his neck and goes, never mind, I think I'll kill you. So then Hazel jumps in and goes, wait, Raina sent us, your sister, look at the ring on his necklace. And I wrote, oh yeah, how come no one has said this yet? Like, that's so ridiculous that they have this whole conversation where she draws a weapon and that no one is like, hey, there's a reason why we're here. It's a very good reason. So.
It's because Percy's been too busy trying to calculate if his joke is funny enough.
Yeah, Percy's not focusing on the task at hand. He's like, what cool joke could I make? She says, look at the ring on his necklace. And Hylla then frowns, drops the knife down to the ring. The color drains from her face. Then she demands that Hazel explain this quickly. So Hazel does her best, recapping Percy Jackson, the Heroes of Olympus and the Son of Neptune. And then while she's describing this, Amazon warriors enter, and one of them is taller and older than the rest. She has plaited silver hair, and I know what plaited silver hair means because I've been reading the children's book Room on the Broom to my daughter a lot. If you guys don't know Room on the Broom, it slaps. It's by the same author of The Gruffalo, and it's so good, and I was sent it by a TNO listener whose name is escaping me at the moment. I'm so sorry. But they sent me this 3-pack of books by this author, and they were like, you probably have The Gruffalo. Here's 3 other books by this author. I do not have The Gruffalo, but I did know about Room on the Broom, but there's 2 versions. Yeah, Julia Donaldson, right? Yeah, there's 2 versions of Room on the Broom. There's the British version, because I think the author is British, and then there's the American version. But in the British version, they have a rhyme. It's like the witch had a cat and a very tall hat and long ginger hair, which she wore in a plait. I think they change it to say like braid in America because it's just like Sorcerer's Stone, Philosopher's Stone, where it's like no one can look up words in America. So I know what a plait is. So because of that, I know what plaited silver hair is. Thank you, my daughter.
I'm just still stuck on, but braid doesn't rhyme with hat.
They change it. So they change it. I don't know what the American one is, but I just know that my brother-in-law, so Kelly's sister's husband, that's how I knew about Room on the Broom, because they read Room on the Broom, and I read Room on the Broom to our nephew, and I was like, this book is fantastic. So when this listener sent us Room on the Broom, I was like, yes, I wanted Room on the Broom. But then I was telling my brother-in-law about this, and he was like, oh, you have the British version with the better rhymes? And I was like, oh, because I don't know what they do instead of I think they changed something, but it might not be. I don't know if anyone in the crowd has the American English version of Room on the Broom, but I don't think they use Platt. But yeah, I don't know what they do. Like, what rhymes with braid? I don't know. Very strange. But anyway.
Minute Maid lemonade.
Yeah, but nothing, because the whole thing, she had a cat and a very tall hat and long ginger hair, which were with the Plaid. How the cat, okay, anyway, Percy Jackson. It's so good. It's real. I can't recommend it enough. She recaps the story, silver plaited hair. She walks in. She's also got silk robes, and the Amazons show her respect, like she's Hylla's mom or something. Quote, until she noted, Hazel, how Hylla and the older woman stared daggers at each other. I did not put two and two together, but I was like, what's the beef here? Hazel ends her story with, quote, so we need your help. Raina needs your help. And then Hylla rips off Percy's leather cord, and because it's got a bunch of beads on it, I can only imagine that they all bounced in a million different directions and like rolled. Like, it's established that this is a huge room. Like, did he have to go pick them up afterwards? Did someone else get them? Like, feels very dramatic and borderline rude.
I'm imagining that one shot with the pearls in Batman vs. Superman.
Oh, I have not seen it. What happens in this shot in Batman vs. Superman?
You should watch it. It's such a good movie.
With a sales pitch like that, how can I not? Is it just like a classic like pearl stripping, and then they go, oh, because it's like the flashback to, spoiler alert, Batman's mom dying?
Yeah.
Because every movie they have to remind us that, in case we forgot. That was my favorite thing when they rebooted Spider-Man, is they're like, okay, yeah, he got bit by a spider. So it's just really dramatic, like they just go, is it like in slow motion and stuff too?
Of course.
Okay. Great, perfect. Okay.
What makes this a bit funnier is Phoebe is not joking.
I'm not joking, I love that movie.
Oh, okay, you actually do like it. Oh.
Everyone should listen to Batman vs. Superman by the minute. It's a great podcast. They go minute by minute through Batman vs. Superman.
That's fun. I like a fun movie podcast like that. Okay, but anyway, Percy Jackson. So the things go flying everywhere, and then the old woman goes, well, Romans need our help, and then laughs, and then all the other Amazons follow. So that's just like classic, like, evil old lady stuff. She asks how many times they battled the Romans and how many times their sisters were killed by the Romans, and then she begins to say, when I was queen, and then Hylla interrupts her by name, Otrera, and I was like, from before. Hylla reminds her that she is here as a guest. She's not queen anymore. And she makes a mocking bow and says, at least until tonight. And then she reveals that Gia brought her back from the dead. And I was like, oh, interesting. So she's definitely evil. She says that she comes with tidings of a new war. And she says that they should follow a queen, Gia, instead of a stupid boy like Jupiter. And I could only think of boys go to Jupiter to get more stupider. She starts to say, when I take command, and Hylla corrects to, if you take command, and I'm thinking, is Hylla considering leaving? Like, is there something going on? Like, is her term ending? Is there an election coming up? Like, what's going on where her being a queen is like up in the air?
We know capitalists love free and fair elections.
Of course, all about it. Otrera goes, quote, I see, and then asks if they really have become so weak that they are listening to male demigods. Then she thinks that sparing his life is foolish because Percy destroyed her home once, he could do it again. And the Amazons look back and forth between the queens to see who will break first, and then Hylla, in an icy tone, says that she will pass judgment once she has all of the information because she rules by reason, not by fear. She says she will speak with Hazel first because it is her duty to hear out a female warrior first before sentencing her or her allies to death. How nice of her.
Yeah.
She then says, quote, that is the Amazon way, or have your years in the underworld muttered your memory, Otrera? Which, get her with the you're not following proper protocol move.
I mean, the fact that she's saying she fought Romans tells me that Hylla is correct. Like, no, you didn't.
No.
Like, the Amazons, I mean, like I was saying in mythology, the Amazons didn't fight the Romans.
So Otrera sneers but doesn't protest. Hylla tells Kinsey to take the boys to the holding cells and tells the rest to disperse. Otrera goes along with it, but tells anyone who wants to hear about her cool new pal Gia, come along with me and I'll talk to you. Half of the group follows her. Kinsey snorts in disgust. So it's just Hylla and Hazel and Hylla's bodyguards. And then Hylla looks at Hazel, drops her anger, and shows desperation in her eyes, which Hazel thinks thinks makes her look like the caged animals. And then the book ends with, quote, "We must talk," Hylla said. Or sorry, not the book, the chapter. The chapter.
Can you imagine?
Not a cliffhanger, just like, all right, I don't know, I ran out of stuff. We got to get this out on a deadline. "We must talk," Hylla said. "We don't have much time. By midnight, I will most likely be dead." And I was like, oh, that's why she may not be queen anymore. What's happening? All sorts of intrigue. But that's the end of this chapter. And that's the end of this episode for now, this portion. But we got to retitle it. I have retitled it to "We Are Primed by Queens."
Oh.
Do you have retitling of chapter 29?
Like our death comes with free shipping or something.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, that's pretty good.
That's pretty good.
Okay, so if you're listening to the podcast after the fact, we're going to take another little break, and then we'll get into the Q&A with our very special guest.
Hey, it's Mike from the future here, just with one more little break since this is a longer episode, but I also do have information about this episode in particular. So at one point in this episode, I mentioned that someone sent me a couple of copies of Julia Anderson books, and I didn't remember the name of that person in the moment on stage. I want to give a shout out to Andrea or Andrea, whichever of the ways you pronounce it. Thank you so much for sending me those books. As I messaged you on Instagram, we read those to our daughter all the time. They slap so hard. I love it. Now, I also have an answer for what is the American version versus the British version of Room on the Broom. So the British version, which is the book that I have, that Andrea how many Andrea, how our good friend, that version. The British one, the opening lines go, "The witch had a cat and a very tall hat and long ginger hair, which she wore in a plait." Now the Americanized version goes, "The witch had a cat and a hat that was black and long ginger hair in a braid down her back." That does not go as hard. "The witch had a cat and a hat that was black and long ginger hair in a braid down her back." Like the cadence doesn't sound as smooth as "The witch had a cat and a very tall hat and long ginger hair, which she wore in a plait." Like that just rhythmically works so much better. There's not as much back and forth. It has that nice little it's so much better. It's so much better. It's so much better. I've become a real snob over children's books. I should make a bonus episode about this on Patreon. Speaking of bonus things on Patreon, I think I'm going to put this as a bonus clip of audio on Patreon, but at one point in the live show, instead of saying that Hazel directly addresses Frank, I said that Hazel addressly directs Frank. I just cut it out of the edit, but I think I saved the clip and I'll put that up. I put audio goofs and stuff on the Patreon from time to time. It's fun. Also, it's very fitting that this next update about the episode comes with an audio quality dip. I already packed away the microphone that I have here at Barber & Joel's, and it's such a hassle to get all set up and everything, so please forgive me as I use my iPhone for this. But you may have noticed that the audio in this episode isn't ideal. That's because the recording, well, I didn't realize this, but it had a noise gate on it, or a noise floor. I forget the technical term, but basically it's something that is set up when the audio goes to silence, or like when we aren't talking, it makes it completely silent. Because we were in an echoey room, it sounded very jarring when it would go to gaps in between people talking. You may have heard a little bit of that. So Sherry came up with the idea, and I'm so proud of her for doing this, and I'm so impressed. She said we should add in more echo. So the echoey room, the echo doesn't like jarringly disappear at moments. And I think it makes it sound a lot better. You may, though, hear a little bit of those moments when the noise kind of abruptly goes to silent. That is just what happened with the recording. We did our best. I'm going to go super in the weeds about this on the director's commentary about this episode on the Patreon. So if you're a freak and you want to know more, check out that director's commentary. But huge props to Sherry. Thank you so much for coming up with that. I genuinely never would have thought of this fix, and I think it makes the audio sound so much better than the original audio we were given, which was a mess. And final update, episode specific, you may have realized that we took a week off last week because March is a 5-Monday month. Thank you, everyone, for understanding. And because we took a week off, what I do here at TNO is I donate money for every 1,000 downloads that we got on the show since the last time we took a break. So if you recall, when we did our break in January, we donated $700 to the Marsha P. Johnson Institute. And then a week or so later, I decided to match that donation for the LA wildfires. So that's what this break is going to be. The number of downloads ended up being less than 700 just because it was a shorter time between breaks, but I don't care. I already gave the $700 to the LA wildfire, so I'm not going to do reverse engineering math. But that is what the donation was this time. And then our next week off, I can already tell you, is going to be on April 28th. So we'll see how many downloads we get between now and then and what charity we decide to support. But yes, now you will hear some ads. Again, they're going to be the locally inserted ones. And afterwards, you will hear a very fun Q&A with a very special guest. Ooh, there was a surprise guest that ran the Q&A. Catch you all soon.
How about very special guest? Do you want to come up onto the stage to do the Q&A and do it until we get very politely asked to leave this nice venue? Everyone, welcome to the stage our guest, Dr. Stephen Barra! Let's go! Yeah. Even more Connecticuting.
Yeah, did you hear it?
I'm fine.
Did you hit your head? Yeah. Oh, no. The prophecy has come true!
I'm next.
I tried to come up here at any point in time before the show started.
Did we warn you about this, or did we
No.
Damn it! Second year in a row where I forgot to tell someone. In my defense, you were a very late addition to even coming to the show to do this. Yeah. Okay. So let's do some Q&A. We got like 15 minutes.
Okay. So a little bit of Stephen Parlor that probably isn't that known.
Yeah, get the Connecticut out there.
I spent a few years about a city about 40 minutes down from here. Got a degree written completely in Latin that I can't read, but Mike can.
He went to Yale for grad school.
So I know some things about Connecticut, which is why I was really taken by this first question sent in by Liz, which is titled, "Clams on Pizza is Gross, New Haven, Connecticut."
Yeah. I've had it. It's fine. Not my choice, but like, all right.
Yeah. Anyway, she asks, now that you have spent time with the son of Neptune trio, if the Greek and Roman camps interact in the future, who are you interested to see interact with one another?
Ooh. I will say my answer is what I'm secretly hoping happens, because I'm not going to look at anyone in case like this is a bad guess or a great perfect guess. But I want Leo and Raina to get together, and I think them meeting would be very fun, because I feel like he will be smitten by her because he's always drawn to like powerful women, and I just think like that could work out. So I would love to see them interact. And then of course I am just excited for Percy and Jason to meet, just from the like Spider-Man meme of it all. Just the like, what? I guess I'm the only one that can answer.
I guess.
Is this a Leo Raina ship?
Yeah. Oh, I want it. I want it to happen.
Oh, all right.
I can give you some fandom lore, which was a ship at the time.
Cool.
When we were reading this book.
I think it makes sense. Like she just had this weird like I maybe was gonna have a thing with Jason. Maybe should I have a thing with Percy, but he's got someone else. Like, and then Leo like keeps meeting powerful women, but then they suck. Like she's powerful and she doesn't suck. So like it could be cool. So I think that would be fun. Oh, also, and then like I need, or I guess that's not a crossover. Or I mean, all the horses, like I said, all the horses meeting. Yeah.
I was trying so hard to come up with a My Little Pony joke earlier, and I still haven't got one.
Okay, this is sent by Ariel for this front of the merch table. Since we're in New England, which Duncan item would you associate with each character?
Ooh. Oh. Duncan item. Okay. I am not super well versed in Duncan, so I might need. It is not because I hate Dunkin', it is because I don't drink coffee, so I don't go to Dunkin' a lot. So I obviously know like the donut repertoire, and then I know like from the commercials like the Coolada. Does that still exist? Okay. Don't know what it is, but I know that it was advertised to me very often as a child growing up in central New Jersey. I feel like Tyson has to be Munchkins because they're like cute, adorable, and childlike. The little donut holes. I'm going to say Annabeth is the manager's special, which is at least where I would get them. It was like a cruller donut with chocolate glaze and sprinkles on top. It's just like the best of all worlds. And I feel like Annabeth has like, she's got the smarts, she's got the fighting capability. Any of your thoughts on Dunkin' items?
I just keep thinking, who's iced coffee? Because that is the best thing from Dunkin' Donuts, specifically iced. People who drink hot Dunkin' Donuts coffee, which does include my mother.
Who's in the crowd?
I have questions. And I was thinking, like, I feel like it's got to be Percy, because it's just like honest, but also a lot of water, but it works.
Oh, okay. And it's like classic. Like, at least to me, that's like the default thing. It's the main character of the Dunkin'
exactly.
It's
Extended
the main character.
Universe. Yeah, for sure.
Any Dunkin' thoughts?
I also don't drink coffee and don't go to Dunkin' very often.
Perfect.
But my regular order is I just get the chocolate chip muffin when I'm there in the mornings to like keep me going throughout the rest of the day.
Okay.
I don't know who that would be.
Who keeps you
just,
going?
Like, keeps him going. I mean, like Grover, right? He's like
Grover,
the heart of the crew. Yeah. And then like I don't know, Octavian would be like when you try to get like proper food at Dunkin'. you're like, oh yeah, I got like the sausage, egg, and cheese bagel, and you're like, no.
But would Octavian be the bagels?
Yeah, I mean, yes, correct, because they are not called Dunkin' bagels. Oh, when you get
with the wrong order.
How did I get a pizza?
Look, I wouldn't be surprised when we did that show in Philly. They said Wawa has pizza now, and I was like, no, Wawa, don't do that.
I feel like the next stage of this question is also for the Dunkin' Donuts Baskin Robbins combined.
The ice cream.
That's too much. That's
Next show. When you hit your head on the speaker, next show.
This is sent in from Lindsay, who is a beneficiary of when we send out to social media. Apparently, she got to have dinner with Ariel.
Oh, fun, cool, yeah. I love when people make friends from the social media blasts.
So this is like a multi-part question, but it's basically just which PJO/Heroes of Olympus characters would be the following Connecticut stereotypes?
Okay.
Repeats are allowed.
What is that one?
They're all Luke.
So starting off with, wears boat shoes?
Okay, Luke. Check.
90% of their closet is vineyard vines.
Luke, yeah. You might be onto something, Phoebe.
Plays lacrosse.
Jason. But he's like the one nice guy on the lacrosse team. But he definitely does play lacrosse, yeah.
Who gets Dunkin' every morning?
Grover, technically, right? Yeah. It's the coffee, yeah.
Who hates on New Jersey?
Oh. Percy.
Yeah.
As much as I love him, he's got to be a Jersey hater. Yeah.
Has a Yukon 5-time national champions banner in their dorm room.
It would be Annabeth because she would be a fan of Sue Bird and Diana Taurasi's work. My
first instinct was Tyson on that one. I feel like he'd be a fan.
Okay. Also, who? Phoebe from The Hunters, wasn't she on the basketball court at one point in time? Yeah, she's a hooper. Phoebe's a hooper canonically, so she would have it.
Phoebe's on the team actually.
Oh, she was. Yes, that was her thing. It was like everyone's going to school, and she's like, "Can I please be on the Yukon women's team, please?" They've only won 5 times.
I don't know.
I just assumed
I'm just
won.
reading the question on the thing.
Was that in a row?
Yeah.
More than 5. Okay, good. I was like, surely, like they've. Yeah. Okay. More stereotypes.
Applied to all the Ivy Leagues and then went to UConn.
Ooh, Octavian.
I thought he would have bought his way somewhere. He would have bought his way somewhere.
Nah, maybe.
Majors in business, marketing, or finance.
Business, marketing, and finance. I guess like maybe one of the store owners, like the Hydra from Monster Donut. I'm just like someone that runs a shop.
Monster Donut experts, sure.
Krusty?
Krusty, yeah, it could be Krusty.
He owns a small business.
Yeah, he does run a small business.
Owns a small business.
Owns a small business.
And puts,
all right, okay.
Puts CEO on their LinkedIn.
Okay. Oh. Owns a small business and puts CEO on there. That's very specific. Medea maybe? Like
That's what I was thinking.
Stoll
Brothers.
Okay, yeah.
Kind of gaming the system.
Yeah, I could see it.
I feel like they've like already done it too. Like at Camp Half-Blood, they're like, no, yeah, the stuff we steal and then sell to people. That's a small business.
Yeah. They would do drop shipping kind of stuff. I could see it. Yeah.
Thinks $150,000 a year is a low salary.
Ooh.
Piper?
King Midas? both correct. Yeah. No, Piper is the correct answer. You don't have a personal chef? Oh, you make food yourself?
This is from Catherine. You mentioned you wish the squad did more in Seattle.
Yes.
If they were going to have a different side quest in Seattle, where would you want them to go and what would they need to do?
Ooh. That's really good. I would love if they had to do something where they have to hike Poo Poo Point, which is my favorite named hike. It's just such a good name, but it's also a great hike. It's like not too far away from the city. It's not too hard, so you can bring people who aren't like super hike savvy on it. And then what's very cool is at the top, it's got this big open grassy area, and then on the bottom there's like a big grassy field, so people hang glide off of it. And then now they have a thing where you can ride tandem with professional hang gliders, so you can like hike up and then hang glide down. So I think it would be cool if they had to do some sort of adventure where they have to get something at the top of Poo Poo Point, and then to escape from some sort of like flying beast, they hang glide down from Poo Poo Point.
That sounds pretty cool.
Right? See, I could be cooking with the Seattle chapters if they actually did stuff.
I was thinking they should just go to a coffee shop, but it's called like Siren Coffee.
Oh,
and then the baristas all speak Greek for some reason.
Right, yeah.
And then
and then they go nakataka nectar.
Yeah, and then they do drugs.
Yeah, and then they say nectar if you haven't had, you haven't lived. Yeah, there's an ATM machine. Yeah. Yeah, for a second I thought you were just like making a Starbucks joke, and I was like, oh right, the second movie.
Every time you watch it, it like does damage. Like you forget more.
It's tough. I'm so glad I've only seen it once.
I'm still mad that I had to watch that for your podcast.
Yeah, dude. Apologies. Oh no, I watched it twice. Damn.
So this is from Patrick. It just says, my question is, even though New Haven has the best pizza on the East Coast,
Incorrect.
what is your preferred pizza place in New York, and what are your go-to toppings?
Okay, New York, and you can learn about this on my New York website where people ask for suggestions. You go to my Chubes website, so schub.es/NYCFAQ, all lowercase. My favorite spots are Scars, which is like a classic slice place in Manhattan, and my go-to there is their sausage pie. And then there's also Prince Street Pizza, which is like a Detroit-style pizza in Manhattan as well. That's very good. I usually get their pepperoni, like Sicilian thick fluffy slice. They do those like little pepperonis that like cup up into little cups. And then in Astoria, my favorite spot is SNS Calabro. It's just like a classic, like almost like I would call like boardwalk style pizza, just growing up in New Jersey, like the ones you can like fold in half kind of thing. Their garlic pie is to die for. It's really, really solid and like affordable given what some pizza places charge in New York City. Those are my three go-tos. Do you guys have pizza places that you hit up a lot?
I really like Brooklyn Pizza Crew. I think they've got a couple locations in Brooklyn. They're really good. They're just a good quality, like, slice of pizza is bigger than the plate type place. Just good stuff. Good pepperoni. They've also got like a mushroom pie that's pretty good.
Nice. Yeah.
I still live in Connecticut. So.
Do you have a favorite spot in Connecticut? Nah. Okay. I've had New Haven pizza. I went to whatever the Frank Pepe's.
Took you to Pepe's,
Yeah, like it was good. It's like pretty close to my preferred style of what I would call New Jersey pizza, like a Di Lorenzo's, where I've gotten food from before. So it's the thin crust and like more sauce than cheese kind of thing. But I think New Haven pizza, like they leave it in the oven like a little too long for my taste. Like the little too much like of the black like dust on the crust. I like a crispy crust, but I think it's like a little too much. But what I did have at Frank Pepe's, it was like the seasonal like. Whatever we went in the summer.
Oh, the tomato pie?
Yeah, it was
so
like on the
good.
menu. It was like, you're here at the time of year where the tomatoes slap really hard. Do you want to get this pizza? It's more expensive, but we promise the tomatoes are good. And I was like, sure. And it was really good.
Yeah.
Like, they were not lying. So
That's one of my faves. Although next time, go to Sally's. That's the other famous one.
Ooh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, I've heard of all these places.
Modern is very good.
Okay, cool. All right,
I got around the corner from Pepe's.
Cool. We got time for like one or two more.
Okay, so this is from Felicia, and it is, which Sesame Street character would each PJO Heroes of Olympus characters be? And I do need to remind you that the Sesame Street characters are Muppets.
Correct, yeah.
So I would like to extend it to the Muppets as well.
All right, we're going to end the show with this because we're going to talk about this for 35 minutes? Is it okay if we go over by 35 minutes? Okay. Muppets and Sesame Street characters. All right. Is Grover just Grover? Yeah. Cool. Okay, gosh. So, oh my gosh.
I feel like I need a list of them.
Should we start listing?
Yeah, I mean, so there's Kermit, there's Miss Piggy, there's Oscar the Grouch, there's Cookie Monster. Cookie Monster could be kind of Tyson, but not really. Like, he's not that one-track mind with food.
Who's the Count?
The Count. I know, I'm trying to think of the Count, but like, gosh, wow, this is so hard. And then there's Elmo. Oh my God.
Is Tyson Elmo?
Tyson could be Elmo.
Who's Rocco?
Rocco, yeah. Who does Tyson beef with?
Who is Tyson's op?
Like, yeah, almond butter instead
Who's
of
got
peanut
the
butter.
biggest beef? I think that's who Elmo and Rocco are.
What is?
Who has the biggest beef?
Biggest beef? I mean, Thalia and boys?
Percy and Aries?
Yeah, gosh. Oh, God. Yeah, okay, so Percy is Elmo and Rocco is Aries. Yeah, that's pretty good. And then, gosh, I mean, let's see.
My first instinct was like Big Bird is Frank.
Ooh,
I
okay.
can't really explain it.
I mean,
No, I see it.
He's large but lovable. Yeah, like could be scary but is like soft. Yeah, okay. Yeah, I like that. And then, the Stoll brothers are Statler and Waldorf, the two old guys who just tell jokes on the side, for sure.
Yeah.
Is Hera Miss Piggy? Like, is fully convinced she's the main character of every story, but like more often than not is annoying, but like every now and then is helpful, like in Muppet Christmas Carol. Yeah.
And who's Kermit?
Who's Kermit? I know, like he's very mean character-y. So is he Jason? Is he Zeus? No, Kermit's so great though. That's tough. And then who's Gonzo? Nico D'Angelo is Gonzo. Yeah, that's it. Great. Then we're gonna end it on that. Thank you so much for coming out to the show. That was it. Oh wow. That was wonderful. Give it up to Emily and Phoebe for being our incredible guests for both acts. Give it up to Dr. Stephen Para for running the Q&A. Give it up to Ariel for running the merch table. And give it up to everyone here at the Webster, Rob running point, and everyone here making things happen. It was super awesome, so smooth. Loved it. Thank you to my buddy Umberto for coming through, who's going to help me by letting me crash at his place. But then Steven came last minute, so I'm driving home with Steven. But still, thank you to Umberto's potential hospitality that is going unused. But I really appreciate you all coming out. This is super fun. This was such a fun show. So glad we got to do this again. Hopefully it will come back and maybe someone else will hit their head on the speaker. But
The prophecy must come true.
yeah, wear a helmet next time. But I really appreciate it. This is an absolute delight. Thank you all so much. And until I find my way back to Hartford for another show to do more silly antics, until then, I'll see you later. Thanks so much for coming out, everybody.
Hey, thanks so much for listening to this episode of The Newest Olympian. This podcast is created, hosted, and produced by me, Mike Schubert. I also run the social media and the website. Our editor is Sherry Guo. The music is by Bettina Campamontes and Brandon Grugel, and the art is by Jessica E. Boyd. If you love the podcast and you just can't get enough, there's a couple of different things you can do. First, you can go to thenewestolympian.com/Patreon. You can join the Patreon, and you can get access to a whole bunch of fun bonus content. You can also follow us on social media. We're at Newest Olympian on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. There's also a subreddit, reddit.com/r/thenewestolympian. And there's also the TNO Discord, which you get access to by joining any TNO tier on the Patreon. You can learn all about the show at thenewestolympian.com, and you can get some sweet TNO merch at thenewestolympian.com/merch. I've mentioned the Patreon, so let's give a shout out to our producer level patrons: Kelsey Gillespie, the Damn Steam Nuggets, Vicky Garcia, Frida Vikstrom, Megan Moon, Sabrina Balsiger, Polly Burge, Nikki Harris, Tatiana Schmidt, Sandra Rose, Josh Sayer, Josh Wilkie, Abby Ryan, Marco Redhouse, Sam Reevy, Mrs. O'Leary, Milo Kim, Sandkoff, Rika, Ryla Matthews, Sky Mallory, Persasabeth, Aiden Parziani, Grace, Ginger Spursboy, A Cup of Solace, Bradimus Prime, Skylar Sisters, Scott Sheldon, Sophie, Natanya Page, Ann M. Thayer Cohen, Bella, Percy Jackson, Han, Haley Hingelheimer Schmidt, Catherine Sloan, Jessica Phillips, Haley Mary, Jim Jam Koopy, Kit Kat Crumbs. I've become a real snob over children's books. I should make a bonus episode about this. If you want to support the show in a non-monetary way, just tell someone about the podcast. It really does help a lot, whether that is you reaching out to someone directly who you think might enjoy the podcast. Maybe they're a big Percy Jackson fan. Maybe they've been looking for an excuse to read the books. Or if you post about the show on social media, or you leave us a rating and review on whatever podcasting app you're using. Truly, all of these things help. I really appreciate anyone who has done it in the past. And I also appreciate anyone who will do it in the future. But I'm just so thankful that you tuned into this episode, and I hope you tune into our next episode, where we'll be joined by Aaron and Manasa from Camp Halfpod as we break down chapters 31 and 32 of The Son of Neptune. But until then, I'll pursue you later. Hey everyone, how's it going? It's me, ASMR Mix. So as I mentioned, I'm recording this one in my sister's old closet. I currently have my backup microphone, which I leave here at Barbara and Joel's place, rested atop a baby gate that we aren't using for the baby anymore because she crawls too much that we had to devote an entire room of the house as her playroom, not just a subsection of it. So I'm just going to kind of like tap on the baby gate itself, and I'm sure the vibrations will get into the microphone. And just for good measure, I'll rub on the wood of the gate. Thank you so much for listening.